Breaking news! It's been a busy week behind the scenes for the Philadelphia Eagles, with Howie just days away from the 2025 NFL Draft, and there's a growing buzz around Novacare that fans can't ignore. I'll give you all the details in a moment, but first, make sure you've hit the like button if you've been a Philadelphia Eagles fan for over 20 years. It's great to see fans of all ages, some of whom were at the games back in the 70s. You guys are awesome. If possible, right? Go Eagles! Let's win the Super Bowl again. One of the most pressing topics heating up conversations isn't just about the players we already have, but also the potential changes that could be coming, both on the roster and through strategic trades. Especially when it comes to the elusive number 2 cornerback spot, the number 2 cornerback position. It seems like the competition is far from over. And yes, you can trust Eli Ricks to be in the running. Let's talk about the cornerback situation because it's anything but set in stone. Despite bringing in Adoree Jackson, which adds a layer of veteran stability, insiders aren't closing the door on younger talent like Ricks. Reuben Frank recently pointed out that CB2 is still an active competition. And honestly, when you look at how the Eagles have approached this offseason, that's been proven true. They're betting big on youth, potential, and a new defensive identity under Vic Fangio. Ricks, who went undrafted, had to work his way into the conversation, but his physicality and one-on-one prowess are hard to ignore. No touchdowns allowed during his time at Alabama? No fluke. Remember when the Eagles were hit hard by injuries a couple seasons back? Avonte Maddox out, Zach McPherson with a season-ending blow? That's when depth was truly tested, and players like Ricks started showing glimpses of what they could offer. His reps against Tyreek Hill last season were a reminder that when given the chance, he can hold his own. It's a question of fit now. How well does he mesh with Fangio's scheme? Some doubts remain about his ability in zone coverage, but the raw tools are there. Now, if you're thinking the Eagles are done adding to the cornerback room just because Jackson was signed, pump the brakes. There are still whispers about possible veteran trades. Yes, even names like Jaire Alexander have been floated. Nothing concrete, but the interest is reportedly there if the price is right. That said, don't expect Howie Roseman to go all in unless he thinks it solves a long-term problem. And really, that's the bigger story here, long-term planning. This team isn't just building for 2025, they're eyeing the future, especially on the defensive line. ESPN dropped a report saying the Eagles are targeting 2 names with laser focus in the first round, James Pierce Jr. and Walter Nolan. Both defensive linemen, both high-impact potential, and both likely to require a trade-up from the 32nd pick. It's a risky play, but with 4 fifth-round picks this year and 12 draft picks coming in 2026, the Eagles have the ammo to make a move if they want it bad enough. If it's Nolan they land, that could spell the beginning of the end for Jordan Davis in Philly. Let's be real, Davis has that 5th-year option, so the Eagles could keep him another year. But drafting a guy like Nolan sends a clear message. The future is now, especially when Jalen Carter is due for a massive payday soon and Marlon Tuipulotu heads into a contract year. There's a financial crunch looming on the D-line, and the front office knows it. They're not going to keep paying top dollar across the board. They've got to cycle in rookie contracts and keep the talent pool fresh. Same logic applies on the edge. Edge rushers are commanding crazy contracts. $30, $40 million deals are becoming the norm, and that's why getting a top-tier prospect like James Pierce Jr. on a rookie deal is so enticing. But here's the catch. To get a guy like that, you might have to move up 10 or more spots. That's a tall order unless a draft day slide happens. If the top 2 guys, Pierce and Nolan, go off the board too early, the Eagles may pivot entirely. Safety or even tight end could come into play, depending on how the board falls. They've done their homework on day 2 safeties, and it's clear there's a backup plan in place. What's fascinating here is that this draft isn't just about filling gaps. It's about reloading key positions with young, cheap, controllable talent. Roseman isn't operating with tunnel vision. He's looking 2-3 years down the road. This is why defensive tackle is very much still in play. Fans might want to focus on the now, but this team's building strategy is about sustainability. So, let's pull this all together. You've got an unresolved battle at CB2, with Eli Ricks fighting to prove he belongs in the starting lineup. You've got Adoree Jackson in the mix, a possible trade on the horizon for a veteran corner, and a potential shakeup if one of the young guys like Khalil Ringo breaks out during training camp. Meanwhile, the draft is shaping up to be a defensive reload, with top targets like James Pierce Jr. and Walter Nolan at the top of the Eagles' board. If neither falls within striking distance, look for the Eagles to pivot to another premium position group like safety or tight end, depending on how day 1 unfolds. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about Eli Ricks possibly locking down that CB2 spot? Are you confident in the young guns holding it down, or do you want to see another veteran brought in? And what about the draft? Should the Eagles go all in to move up for Pierce or Nolan, or sit tight and pivot if it gets too expensive? Let me know in the comments, and let's get this conversation going. And let's not overlook the strategic possibilities that that Howie Roseman has quietly lined up for this exact moment. Everyone's talking about the 4 fifth-round picks this year like they're just late-round darts, but in reality, that's leverage. Combine that with a conditional third-rounder from the Hasten Reddick trade and a whopping 12 picks in 2026, and you've got the kind of draft capital that can grease the wheels for a serious move up. The Eagles are sitting on a vault of assets, and this might be the year they cash some of that in, not for a flashy receiver or another gadget player, but to dominate the trenches where games are truly won. That's what makes James Pierce Jr. and Walter Nolan such attractive targets. These aren't just safe picks, they're foundational. With Pierce, you're looking at a premier edge rusher who could slot into the rotation and eventually take over a starting role without skipping a beat. He's the type of high motor, bend the edge threat that thrives in a system like Fangio's. And if you pair him with someone like Nolan Smith or even Josh Sweat for a year while he develops, that's terrifying for opposing offenses. Then there's Walter Nolan. He's not just another big body to clog lanes. He's explosive, strong at the point of attack, and disruptive in both the run and pass game. If the Eagles land him, it's because they see him as a long-term anchor next to Jalen Carter. That combo would be reminiscent of Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave at their peak, only younger and potentially more dynamic. And with Cox now retired and the future of Jordan Davis hanging in the balance, this could be the next great pairing in the interior. Speaking of Davis, let's address the elephant in the room. If Walter Nolan is drafted, it could be a signal that the Eagles are preparing to move on from Davis sooner rather than later. Despite his potential and flashes of brilliance, he hasn't consistently shown he can be the dominant force he was expected to be coming out of Georgia. The fifth-year option gives the team some flexibility, but the writing might already be on the wall if they pull the trigger on a defensive tackle that early. But the draft isn't all about the first round, and that's where the real chess game begins. If those top targets are off the board by the early 20s and the asking price for a trade-up is just too steep, don't be surprised if the Eagles pivot to positions like safety or tight end on day 2. The team has done extensive scouting on second-day safeties, and with Sidney Brown still developing and Reed Blankenship needing help, that move would make a lot of sense. This draft class has depth in the secondary, and if the Eagles believe they can grab a safety who can start or significantly contribute in year 1, they'll jump on it. They're not going to reach out of desperation. They'll play the board, and with the flexibility they have in terms of draft picks, they can adjust quickly if the right player starts to slide. The second day could end up being just as critical for this team as the first, especially if they land a starter at safety and a rotational pass rusher or cornerback. So now I want to turn it over to you, Eagles Nation. Are you riding with the youth movement and ready to see guys like Eli Ricks, Khalil Ringo, and Sidney Brown take the reins? Or are you hoping for one more big veteran addition before camp? And how do you feel about the draft strategy? Do you want to see Howie Roseman move up for a blue-chip defender, or play the patient game and stockpile talent across the board? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, and get ready, because draft night is going to be wild.